It didn't happen during a fast break or a scramble for a loose ball. It came during a screen, one that was never meant to be legal. As Caitlin Clark tried to fight through, Brittany Grier stepped up to set the screen, but instead of holding her position, she moved directly into Clark's path, raised her forearm, and delivered a sharp elbow to the side of her face. It wasn't hidden in traffic or subtle. It was clean, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. Clark's head snapped back, her feet staggered for a moment, and although the whistle blew, the ruling was a common foul, no review, no flagrant, and the play moved on as if nothing happened. But everyone watching knew something had. The building, buzzing with energy before tip-off, now held its breath. On the bench, the Fever waited for accountability, but instead, Grier sat down, leaned forward, and without raising her voice, let the words land. "Sit down, trash-ass white girl." It wasn't part of the game plan or strategy. It was something else entirely. A message, a challenge, a moment that turned competition into something deeply personal. The shot had been fired, the insult delivered, and all eyes turned to Clark to see how she would respond. When one of the league's most dominant veterans elbows you in the face, calls you out from the bench, and dares you to keep playing, it's no longer just a foul. It's a test. The opening tip went to Indiana, who wasted no time as Kelsey Mitchell attacked the lane and finished at the rim, setting the tone early. Atlanta responded immediately. Brianna Jones battled for an offensive rebound and powered it back up for two, signaling this wouldn't be a finesse game. Clark quickly got involved, coming off a handoff from Aaliyah Boston, hesitating at the top of the key before accelerating downhill for a soft scoop finish off the glass. She appeared composed, but had no time to ease into the moment. Grier caught the ball deep in the paint, sealed off her defender, and dropped a clean hook. On the next possession, she used her strength to carve out space and bank in another. There was no reaction, no words, just cold efficiency. Clark stayed alert despite the rising physicality, responding not with words, but with a deep three that she drained without celebration. She didn't need to speak. The message was in the shot. At the end of the quarter, Atlanta led 31-23, but the numbers barely mattered. Something deeper was unfolding. This was no longer just a game, but a collision of pride and presence. Two forces pulling the spotlight in opposite directions, neither willing to step back. The scoreboard didn't tell the whole story. What was unfolding wasn't just a game, it was a clash of identities, of eras, of fire meeting steel, and neither side was backing down. After an explosive first quarter, the second opened with a strange kind of silence. Not from the crowd, but from the players. For nearly 2.5 minutes, neither team could buy a basket. It wasn't sloppiness, it was tension. Both teams were bracing themselves, trying to recalibrate after everything that had happened. The hit, the foul, the insult from the bench. The first 10 minutes had cracked open a new layer of intensity. Finally, Ryan Howard slipped past Dana Bonner and drove straight to the rim, banking in a tough layup through traffic. It wasn't flashy, but it reminded everyone that the dream wasn't backing down. They held the lead and were playing to keep it. Indiana struggled to respond, going nearly 3.5 minutes before scoring, but when they did, it came from their two leaders. Clark grabbed a defensive rebound and immediately pushed the pace. With the defense scrambling, she fired a laser pass to Kelsey Mitchell, sprinting ahead, who finished the fast break with a clean scoop off the glass. It was Indiana's first points of the quarter, and they couldn't have come at a better time. On the next possession, Atlanta wasted no time. Grier sealed her defender deep in the paint, received a perfect entry pass, powered up through contact, and finished with her left hand. No celebration, no words, just dominance. On the other end, Clark found space at the top of the arc, took a quick dribble left, rose into her shot, but Ryan Howard caught her on the wrist. The whistle blew and 3 free throws were awarded. Clark stepped to the line with calm composure, sinking all 3 shots. The crowd buzzed, Sensing the tide might be turning, Clark wasn't just surviving the moment, she was bending it. Atlanta continued to feed Guerrier in transition. She slipped behind the defense again and finished off a perfect feed under the rim, her timing flawless. But Clark refused to let the game slip away. Taking the ball off a handoff from Boston, she read the defender and stepped into a deep three well beyond the arc. The shot rattled in clean, giving her 11 points and, more importantly, Indiana hope. On the very next play, she found Mitchell on a backdoor cut, and Mitchell finished with a layup. Their chemistry wasn't just instinct, it was trust. When Clark trusted her teammates, the whole team elevated. Atlanta didn't go away. The Dream ran a clever ghost screen, no contact, just a distraction, allowing Ryan Howard to create space and drill a clean three-pointer from the wing. But something was different in Clark's response. On the very next possession, she sized up Howard, stepped back, and buried a jumper right in her face. The ball snapped through the net, sending a clear message. Clark glanced briefly toward the Dream bench after a quick shot, then delivered another highlight with just over a minute left in the half, running off a tight screen from Boston, catching the ball 2 steps behind the arc, and firing instantly. The shot never touched the rim, falling straight through the net to give her 16 points. By then, the crowd had fully swung in her favor, the electricity shifting as the woman they thought had been broken earlier now burned through every defender thrown at her. Indiana returned to their foundation as Clark brought the ball up slowly, motioning for Boston, and they flowed into a high pick-and-roll. When the defense blitzed the screen, Clark slipped a pocket pass through traffic, hitting Boston on the move. Boston rose from the short roll and drained a smooth 12-footer. The Fever had clawed all the way back. Halftime came with the Dream still holding on but barely, leading 44-42, and the break only heightened the tension. As both teams returned to the floor, the crowd rose, sensing something was coming. This was no longer just a game. It was a collision waiting to happen. From the whistle, Ryan Howard took control, opening the quarter with a smooth three from the wing and knocking down another before Indiana could reset. Less than a minute in, she had 6 quick points. And when the Fever lost track of her again, she punished them with a third triple in 90 seconds, reigniting the Dream and stretching their lead to double digits. The Fever looked rattled, but Clark tried to pull them back into rhythm. After a deflection, Mitchell pushed the ball ahead to Clark, who quickly returned the pass for a wide-open three that Mitchell drained cleanly. Atlanta didn't slow down. Aaliyah Boston scored after faking a handoff and slipping past her defender for a smooth finish. The Dream answered again as Alicia Gray connected from deep, followed by Naz Hillman with another three after Brianna Jones's inside presence forced a rotation. The Dream spread the floor and hit everything. Clark stayed, aggressive, coming off a tight down screen, stopping on a dime, and hitting a soft jumper to keep Indiana in it. Mitchell then ran a well-executed Spain pick and roll, leaving her wide open to cash in from mid-range. Atlanta kept applying pressure. Brianna Jones crashed the offensive glass, grabbed a tough rebound in traffic, got fouled, and hit both free throws. At the end of the third, Atlanta led 76-65. Indiana opened the final quarter with urgency, and Lexi Hall delivered the first spark, pulling up in transition to bury a three that cut into the lead and gave the Fever a pulse. The Dream responded quickly, with Maya Caldwell calmly creating space and knocking down a turnaround jumper to quiet the moment. Clark went back to work, running the pick and roll with Boston, slipping a pass through traffic for a strong finish. Then Clark took matters into her own hands, pulling up well beyond the arc and knocking down a deep three, followed by another off a screen, pushing her total to 25 points and pulling Indiana within striking distance. Greer answered with her signature post moves, scoring on back-to-back possessions with a hook shot and a turnaround jumper. Despite the Fever sending help, she stayed in control. Clark didn't back down. After a rare Greer miss, Mitchell pushed the break and finished at the rim. On the next possession, Clark and Boston connected on a pocket pass, leading to another score. With just over a minute left, Indiana had cut the lead to 2. Atlanta turned to Ryan Howard, who drove hard, drew the foul, and calmly sank both free throws to extend the lead. The Dream held a 4-point cushion with just 9 seconds remaining, and Indiana had one last chance. Natasha Howard caught the inbound, rose for the jumper, but it was blocked. She recovered, got one more shot off, but the ball bounced off the rim as time expired, and Atlanta survived with a 91-90 victory. For most of the game, it was a battle defined by skill and intensity. Caitlin Clark moved with control, threading passes through tight gaps and sinking long-range shots, while Brittany Griner anchored the paint, using her strength to dominate inside and disrupt Indiana's offense. The game was physical from the opening tip, but stayed within the rules, until it didn't. In the second half, everything changed. As Clark fought through a screen, Grier stepped directly into her path and raised her elbow into Clark's face. It was no incidental contact, it was deliberate. A moving screen became a strike that landed clean across Clark's jaw. The officials blew the whistle but ruled it a common foul. No flagrant, no review, just a decision to move on as if nothing had happened. Yet everyone watching knew exactly what they had seen. Clark didn't react with words or retaliation. Instead, she responded through her game. She buried deep threes from well beyond the arc, controlled every possession as if nothing had fazed her, assisted on crucial scores, navigated tight defensive coverage, and nearly willed her team to a comeback victory. In the final minute, when the game got ugly, she got sharper. Grier's foul and insult were meant to send a message, but what followed said more than either moment ever could. Clark finished with 27 points, 11 assists, and 5 rebounds. She didn't just respond, she elevated. She met disrespect with execution, pressure with clarity, and hostility with a level of performance that demanded respect, whether it was given or not. The elbow was supposed to send a message, but the real message came afterward, and Clark was the one who delivered it.